Let's take our seats.
Man, I'm freaked
All right,
out. Come on, I'm
press
freaked
this
out.
a little bit.
Like all my
We've gotten off schedule somewhat, so the GX's going to finish their presentation so that we can keep going, and we have family services. It's going to talk to us a little bit after that.
I'm going to jump right into the next challenge that we have, sponsorship. You've already mentioned when I first got into my unit, I was given a schedule for the drill for the entire year, and I was told to be at this location at this time for the next drill. I showed up there, formed up with what I thought was my unit. By the end of the formation, my name wasn't called, so I went to the first sergeant and I said, "First sergeant, this is my name. You can call my name." And he said, "Which unit are you with?" I told him what unit, and he was like, "Oh, they're formed up just further down." So what I'm trying to get to is sponsorship is a very, very important part. We thought that sponsorship only for active duty order. What we found out is actually it's for National Guard, active duty, reserve, and also civilians who work for the military department. I think it is a very important aspect. It definitely helps us as new to the unit understand our chain of command, understand who to go to when we need things to get done, and also it sets us on the right steps for success. Texas Military Department.
Just real quickly, Texas Military Department was kind of an initiative that they brought on us. They were like, "Hey, we made this app, we spent money on it, let us know how to use it." And I think this kind of highlights one of the key focuses of the Community Advisory Council in general, and that's for us to be like, to be able to answer those questions in a very honest way. One thing that became very apparent was that the app, like, using wasn't a decentralized way to solve the problem. That's what mobile applications are, the ways to solve problems. So, and even during the last meeting, when they're asking these questions, it did kind of feel like this is the fundamental moment. So I do want to say that one of those things, something like that, it might not be an app, it might not be, 10 years from now, whatever it might be, but having people that, but people generally younger that are able to answer those questions or see things that might not be quite right. And that's, we need a lot more of the apple.
So,
yes, go ahead. Sorry, do you mind if I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay, sorry. So, I'm very curious as to, because I know when I look at, by the way, sorry, Chief Morrison of the J3AHC. So, when I look at an app, I just want to know, hey, what's this for? So what's your priorities when you look at the app? When you use this app, what do you want from it?
Exactly, that's the point I'm trying to get to. Once we were told by Battalion Commander, let's go ahead and download the app. So look for this app, download it, surveyed about 20 soldiers, asked them if they have the app. 14 of them said yes, they do have it. 6 said they don't. It sounds very positive. But then the survey was 2 questions, 2 parts. The second part is asking people who've got it, do you actually get to use it? 10 out of 14 said no. Only 4 they said they get to use it. When I asked them what to use it for, they said to see notifications, use the scanner, and that's about it. I'm among those 4 who actually use the app, but it's not actually use it because there isn't anything on the app that can be useful to us. So going back to your point, Chief, in order to make the app work, it must be useful to us for our daily routine.
It must be relevant.
Relevant. So one of the key points, the app is not an actual app. It's what we call a web app. 25 Bravos probably understand this. It's a link built into an app. You click on the app, it takes you out of the app into a browser. And every time you click on something, it takes you to a different window on the browser, which is confusing. So it's very hard to navigate through. So I guess one thing to make the app work is we need to have a better interface or more friendly. Yes, go ahead.
What do you believe the app was designed for? To provide you what?
Provide you services, provide you the tools that helps you succeed with your.
So it provides you information, though, right?
I believe it would be a communication, not just provide you with the information. I think the app is a great way to communicate with soldiers, to pass out information to them.
So, do you want me to jump in on that? Since like you can't mandate the app, that's one of the things that they talk about. Is they're like, hey, we can't mandate that every soldier takes this. That means intrinsically you are like competing for space on that person's phone, on that individual soldier's phone. So you are inviting the idea that like you are going to compete with everybody else, every other app out there. And a really good example of this, it's not just necessarily failing the military department as far as building an app. How many people use Bing? No one. Like no one. Probably in this room. Everybody uses Google. That's an application built by Microsoft. People are very good at building applications. But Google algorithm is just superior for like most of our uses. So we use that.
Okay, wait a minute, you hurt my head. Here's what it was designed for. It was designed to provide you information about the Texas Army National Guard. Yes or no? Okay, so help me to understand what more do you want it to do?
But if it does not do that well or efficiently or evenly cross-platform, so probably almost split down the middle, half the people in this room have an iPhone, probably the other half have a Samsung or an Android device. If those experiences aren't comparable, like you can't expect that to propagate very well. And I even checked, and the Air Force has a really good one. It's U.S. Air Force Connect. It is very, very well done. Guess how many ratings it's got in the App Store? It's got 48. And it is like probably 10 years ahead of the one we have. Like ours is a web app. And it has 48. Because it is intrinsically competing for relevancy, and not even as a buzzword, like relevancy on the social platform. So if you want to connect with it, and you want to utilize those systems to connect with people's generation, I know he's in the background at one point talking about how you reach the generational issue. So I strongly recommend everybody look at that U.S. Air Force Connect one. It's very, very, very well done. And it has like very relevant information, very clean. And also look at how many ratings it even has. It's at 48. Like on average, large apps will have 5,000, 10,000. So you are competing for relevancy on people's phones, especially the mandate.
Okay, I hear you, but I'm still wondering, my question hasn't been answered. What do you want?
So that's a good question. Like as far as what do you want us to want with it? Like if you
Hold on.
I know that sounds crazy.
Hold on.
I'm serious.
It's on your slide. That's what he's asking.
Read your slide.
Right. So in order to use the app, it must be useful to us. To me, I think having a way of communicating with soldiers, leadership with their soldiers, by building a messenger app, a way of secure network. Instead of sending it through personal emails, it could be sent through the app. That's one way of making me have the app as a soldier if my leadership's communicating with me through the app. If I'm an MBA soldier and I have no need for it, I'm not going to install it on my phone because it's going to take space. But if I'm doing
But if you want to be informed about the Texas Army National Guard as a whole,
we can do that, plus we can add those to it to make soldiers use it.
All right, real quick, hold on. So this is a contentious topic, not just with us, with everyone. So what you're asking is, what do you think it does? Well, you got to remember, we got to step out of our way. We need to let them tell us from that lower ranks. Yeah, what do they want? What do they need? The reason I threw this at them is because just what's happening right now.
would it be helpful if they had battalion company level information being passed to them through this app?
Right.
This is actually
So that's what they're getting at. I just want you to have a context of where this came from and why this came up, because it's a continual issue. We have this app, and we've had it for years, and we have very little people utilizing it. So that's what I said. You tell me what.
So tell me about bandwidth and all these stars.
I don't
You want to be able to communicate with your platoon sergeant, your squad leader through this app. Yes or no?
Okay. So I caution, and one of the things I wrote about, I'm very serious, that might not work. I think these are good ideas, personally. I love these ideas. I'm not saying they're going to work. What I like in an application, what I value in an application differs from so many other people. Intrinsically, it is a program that does a job and it does something. But so very likely, if we have and I love the idea of a unit bulletin board that is individualized, that shows who they are. I love that. I cannot speak for so many other people. Like so many people my age love Instagram. I don't use Instagram. I don't care. So I can't say that app is going to affect me.
So, okay, hold on. So we get all that.
Okay.
What we're asking is, your council, what do y'all see, and this is what you have. So we don't have to get behind the scenes on all the other stuff.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, as a 25-year-old, I can tell you, in order for the app to be used, it must be useful. Things that could be added to the app is a way of communicating with the soldiers, the messengers. Another way of having it useful is adding demonstration of training. We have the new PT test that's coming out. We can put videos in there that soldiers can go and look at what they need to do, how they need to do it. On the military website, there's a link where we can go to and plug in the age, the scores, that calculate the scores automatically for you. I think this would be very helpful if it could be added to the app. And instead of having a flashlight on the app, which I don't think anyone would use, we can add that link to it. A way of, we have a scanner on the app, but you cannot do much with the scanner. That scanner will be very useful if we can scan the documents and then have the capability of emailing it over to our NCOs.
Like an annual, I don't know, like cyber aware.
The annual trainings, yep, absolutely. I can do it at home. I'll take a picture of it, or just scan screenshot the certificate, send it over. Or if I'm going to a training there, get a hard copy certificate, and take a picture of it, scan it, and send it over. I think we can make it secure, and then also make it useful to.
And I know you guys might be more than when I say this, but it's not just about the app. It's about the technologies and the things that are going to change. And people are going to like kind of, quite frankly, fundamentally misunderstand the stuff that I'm going to mess up in 30 years if I'm sitting there that I have no idea like how it works. Or essentially this app, you guys built a house and that's why the plants didn't grow. Like you missed the point. Just because you have a car doesn't necessarily mean I want it. Like it's about solving an issue in this case. But like technology is going to keep evolving, and moreover, just having an apparatus what is exponential change? And I'm not going to go all history. I love history, so I'm not going to go history on you guys. But think about the Industrial Revolution stuff that happened there. That's like multiplicative change. You live in an age that is instant communication. That's exponential. I don't know if anybody cubes numbers versus just adding them together. Like, it changes a lot faster, and the relevancy changes a lot quicker. And how many of you guys know that your personal, like your data, just the analytical data that you produce, like just having your phone, putting it around, texting people, is more valuable than oil. And I'm not kidding. It is more valuable to distill the information. Say you walking in the park, you messaging so and so, you visiting sites, because what a clever person, and this is what I mean. I caution against solving the direct problem without addressing the issue, and the issue being adaptability and further technological adaptability going into the future. Failure to do this is going to be an issue, like not just in the Texas military department, but like national security. I don't know how many people follow what's going on in Hong Kong right now. Oh, sorry.
I just have a question. So you're dealing with a lot of folks that potentially are not as technically proficient as you are on your phone or apps. No, just bear with me. And it needs to change, right? So it stays relevant. Your topic was relevancy. So have y'all proposed, has your group proposed that maybe we need a working group so that we can get start working through and nugging out, hey, we need it to be able to be updated frequently, who's going to do that, who's going to hold it? Do you guys have a group that's going to be?
I actually do. I wrote quite actually extensively about this. It needs to, at least for the immediate issues of this application, you need to make it cross-platform. It's got to work on your iPhone. It's got to work on people's Samsung. It has to work. It has to work consistently for everybody at any point, because you're not going to sell it. I know it's
just real quick, what you're doing is arguing against your arguments on the app. So I think we might be going a little too far. But I think this. All I'm asking is you have what you want, basic ideas. So who's going to own it, or who have you pushed it to?
To answer your question, we actually gathered up. We came up with those ideas that's going to be pushed to the chief, and then he will take it from there.
So it's your fault.
I didn't realize how contentious of an issue it was, not just like
It's all good. So one thing I hope y'all see is, I mean, they are passionate about trying to get after some of the things that we have going on, and this is just an example of the others that are sitting on the council that you all have given the opportunity to participate in this. So I want to thank you for allowing them to do that, but now you get to see what they're really working on. So whenever you do have a GIAC member that you go, oh crap, I got to give them a couple of days so they can go to this meeting, it's not just them coming up here hanging out or going wherever we're meeting at. They're actually involved. They're actually doing things for the TAG and I to get after some of this. And like I said, the app is very contentious. We know that. And it isn't just us. It's everyone. So I hope you can now feel a little easier in supporting whenever I send out and say, I need your GIAC members to come up for 3 days here or do this or that.
Just two quick questions. First, on the concerns, I really didn't hear much about, because I can't really see your range. Special. All right, but so in your concerns, I didn't hear much about going to your first line leader and how much support you got from that leader. Because for me, as a sergeant major, mentorship is something that we talk about all the time. We talk about it. I would like to know if you get any type of support from your leadership on the issue on your concerns. That's one. I didn't hear that.
So, well, I'll tell you why. Because this is taskers I gave them.
Right.
So they're going to come back to me with what they want to see. Because a lot of times what I've found, and we all see it, if you junior people come to you, you're going to be like, oh, we can't do that. and you don't know that there might be a possibility that we can't.
Yeah, we want to make sure we get the mentorship all the way down to that level so they won't be turned around. And my second question is, have you ever been interested in cyber recruiting? If you are, come see.
All right, real quick, sorry, Mason.
I wanted to compliment both of you and please take it back to your team. I was an E4 in 1983, okay, before some of these people were born probably, all right? I would have been peeing my pants up there. So I really compliment you for doing what you're doing, taking on these old goats or whatever. But I'm pretty for holding your ground on it. And probably what everybody wants to express is, okay, well, we've got a chain of command issue kind of thing. I've been trying to solve this from the other end in the State Guard because we have this non-reading email thing going. And so people want it on an app or something. But then I don't get it because here's this old dinosaur doing all that stuff, trying to keep up with it. I'm not at your speed, but I'm trying to solve that same issue from up above. And I think these folks are too. It's communication, and chain of command, and making it work. And I don't think everything's always easy, but we got a lot of talent in the room and all over the Guard, everywhere, so we can get there. But I think sometimes the more things change, the more they stay the same with people, and we got people to deal with, even if we get tools.
So I want to, on behalf of General Norris and myself, I want to thank you for coming up here and, like you said, and starting to hear special department here. I keep saying car and call. Because I know it's tough talking to us. And then just to let y'all know a little behind that, they thought they were only going to talk to like 8 or 9 of us. I didn't know it was going to be everybody. This morning it was like, holy cow. But thank y'all very much. Great job.
Thank you very much. Thank you for bearing with us.
Thank you guys. Really do appreciate it.
Okay, so real quick, we're running a little behind. Who do we have? Who's next? Armando.
Kristen Romley will be the first speaker, and then we're going to have Tracy Ward and Sarming.
Okay, I'm here. I'm Kristen Rumley. I'm the 149th Fighter Wing Director of Psychological Health, so I work for the Air National Guard, so I know a lot of faces here. I also was an Air Force officer, did the same job, social worker, and then got out and joined the Guard. I actually took a lot of criminal leave. That was really interesting. So I have a lot of time working with the military. My position is really interesting because I provide counseling for our members, family members, but then I'm also a consultant to leadership and commanders. So I always am balancing the needs of the member and the needs of the military. So it can be really quite interesting and fun at times. So I say that because I was told I could talk about whatever I wanted. And so I'm going to talk about the things that I say all the time, which means that I need to keep talking about and saying. And so half of them might sort of have to deal with you as a leader, and half of it might be maybe you personally. So when I say burnout, I'm saying leaders burn out, but I'm also saying our members do too. So, and I only have 15 minutes. I'm from the East Coast, so I do talk fast, so bear with me. So let's talk about suicide, or not. Because I'll tell you, I don't like talking about suicide because most people don't kill themselves. But we normalize something that most people actually don't do. We have an issue with it, so we need to address what's going on, but we also don't want to normalize it in the process. And I've seen this as a continuum of the past 10 years, is that we're normalizing something we don't want someone to do. I want to normalize help seeking. That's what I want to normalize. And so that's always been my underlying thing. Now, in addressing the issue that we're facing, I've heard, and how many of you guys are on social media? You hear, by the way, 149_DPH Instagram. Anyway, if you're on social media, I had to do it since you're talking about Instagram. If you're on social media, people are talking about this toxic leadership, right? And I will say, there are always issues in any organization with leadership. And I'm not discounting the experiences that people had, because I can go on my own, on and on also. I will say, my toxic leader taught me to be a really good leader. Does that happen for everybody? No. But the issue is maybe not toxic leadership, or how many times have you heard it's all the deployments, especially Army, right? Army's rates are so high because they deploy so much. I'm going to put a caveat and say if we are only looking at toxic leadership and deployments, we are missing the mark. Because the issue is we have civilian, military, and veteran suicides all increased. So does that mean our civilian members have toxic leaders? Well, maybe at IBM, maybe, I don't know, or UPS. Does that mean our veterans have toxic leaders? Maybe they did at one point. But I'm going to say, no, what we're seeing in the reports that are coming out, thank goodness we're finally doing more research, is that the issue is connection, sense of purpose, and lack of hope. So in connection, and I've seen this so many times, it's someone who does make a mistake and now they're in trouble, right? And now they're not connected. Or maybe that is your toxic leadership. When people deploy, what do you think impacts their sense of connection? Not with their family, maybe there's family problems, and or maybe there are some leadership problems. So I will say the leadership and all those things are a part of it, but we need to look more at our connection. And we need to look at the sense of purpose. So sometimes I'll see someone who is undergoing like an Article 15, and so if all they've known is this uniform, then what happens with their sense of purpose? Many moons ago, I worked training new fighter pilots, and we have a couple that would fail out, and they had no idea what to do with themselves because their entire life was that. Now, does that mean that we all of a sudden don't base our entire life on something we love? No, but our life has to have meaning. So if someone who's struggling with meaning and purpose, maybe they're like, we'll see like a lack of faith or whatever, we'll see that in the sense of purpose. And then hope. I will say this, I don't sugarcoat. Sometimes we need to realize that things will get better. Does that mean that everybody has that experience? No, because when people are hurting, they're not seeing that. But sometimes, I'll tell you, I've been through things too, and those seasons have come and gone. And sometimes they were really long. And during those seasons, I wasn't sure how it was going to work out. And so people sometimes need to hang on during that really difficult season, and it doesn't mean that they're going to be at their tip-top ability either. So then we think, okay, well, great info, Kristen, well, now what? So do we have control over any of that? Sometimes we have influence over some of that. I don't know if the expectation is that leaders go into the work section every day and have, and walk down the aisle singing that they're here, and to connect, right? We're not going to all necessarily do that. But I think that keeping that in mind is a big deal. So then the other thing to look at is warrior ethos, right? I think this concept is something we don't address enough. So as a warrior, we are supposed to go into that battle and not give up, even if our leg gets chopped off, right? I'm a Vikings fan, not the football team in the show. And, those Vikings, they don't give up, right? I'm not saying anything against the Vikings, but I'm from Philly, so I'm, of course, going to be always an Eagles. So anyways, they go into the battle, they don't give up, right? And then when the battle ends, they pause, they go get something to eat and sleep, maybe, and then they go back out, right? But that's a military cultural thing, and there's nothing wrong with that, because what if we didn't have that mindset? But then, how does that transfer over when we're not doing well? Do we just keep sucking it up until all of our limbs fall off? And then what does that look like on the mental health continuum? And so we struggle with also mentoring the take a knee. That, okay, yes, you're a warrior, but man, I want you back out there, but you might not be able to go right now. And we really, really struggle with that message. And I will tell you, some of the reason we struggle is because we're a part of the culture, right? So if my, and I'm just picking and saying my wing commander, if my wing commander, yes, sure, everybody, sure, go, if you need to talk to Kristen, go talk to her, but, he has that warrior ethos and grace, so he's not going to, right? And I'm not saying that my wing commander has even said any of that. But it's a message.
Maintain their military affiliation voluntarily, so if we make resources available for them to go do it, then they might do it.
Well, they have the same 3 hours. They go and do that.
But now, depending on if they're Title 10, civilians or Title 5 civilians in the authority can the tag directly. That's the legality.
Yep.
So, Chief.
I was just going to say back to really, I think the formation thing is what will be so cumbersome. And even though it's written in the rules that you get 3 hours of workout time, wing leadership doesn't say you will do 3 hours, or you will do at least 1 hour. And you have monitors at each squadron or group that can monitor that during the week as full timers. So people aren't walking out the door at 4 o'clock and leaving You know, you gotta come back to a squadron and say what you did, show that you sweat some, that type of thing. But it could be, it needs to be, managed at the wing level, obviously. But I think taking it out of formation so that, maintenance isn't disrupted during their busiest time of day.
So that's formation. Formation means your unit. It doesn't mean your wing. It doesn't mean your group. It's, you know, it could be Fab Shop. Fab Shop's doing theirs, here you go.
And that's why I'm saying, you know, we're getting wrapped around because, A, we don't actually have the, you know,
the policy.
The policy right in front of us. But we are going to have a huge latitude in how it gets implemented. All right, Chief?
I'm not trying to throw rocks, but why is this a problem?
This is hard on TV.
I mean, granted, we're AGRs, but I got guys on 3 shifts plus officers. They say tags give us latitude to have formations, right? So when I hear that, I'm like, cool. Back office staff is this day, flights, when you guys get off work, pick a day to do PT. Why are we complaining about this? I mean, you're getting paid to work out. So everybody's so ingrained in their life that you can't take an hour to.
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. As long as the member is not being told, now you got to work an extra hour, or along those lines, I completely agree with you. That is a concern that I have. That lost productivity, it's still got to get made up.
But that is going to happen.
It is going to happen. How is it managed? We all are playing a big role in that. You're right. You can't make me go work out, force fun up yours. No, I agree with you. But the lost productivity is going to have to get accounted for. And that's what is the unknown. Those are some of the things that I think, once again, if it demonstrates itself out, we have to funnel that up. Correct. To the leadership. Correct.
My question kind of that though is it's such an issue with the individual. I got troops, they get off shift and they can go home and they don't work out. That's meeting the intent of what the tag wants to do, right? Not information, but they're working out. Yes. So if there's not a way to allow it to happen on the clock without losing time or whatever, can they just work out after as a group and that meets the intent?
Whatever the unit comes up with. Right. But it has to be done, you know, at the location. That's the other part. So this isn't going to be, well, okay, you go home, you do it at your gym, you do it at your gym, and so forth and so on. If they all show up at the same gym, okay, they work out together for an hour or whatever it may be. So it's meeting the intent of that. Well, because where you're at is probably a little different in security forces compared to where Fab Shop or whoever else is, where they have.
Especially looking from a technician's perspective, in the sense that if I get injured and I'm on a technician status, it's okay. If an APR gets injured and he gets an automatic LOD, it's on his record. He got injured while performing what the statute doesn't want. Is this a military requirement or a technician requirement? Because if it's a federal requirement, you're changing law. You're changing technician.
It's a TMD. It's a TMD.
Absolutely. And again, we go back to its individual responsibility, but yet we're pampering just like these kids nowadays. Who makes us do our PMEs? Who made you do your CDCs? It's an individual responsibility. That's what the PT program is for.
So you as a supervisor have oversight of that, right?
Correct. So
okay, so that's what she's doing. She's having oversight of fitness.
Again, but it's flavor. We're primarily AGRs, and it's a mandatory order. Of course, we're all going to comply. But as a technician, does she have the authority to reach in? And if the technician gets injured, how are they going to be compensated? Is it an LOD? Is it workman's comp?
That's what I told you. That's the piece I'm trying to work.
Correct.
So I got that.
There's variables to this.
There are. You're exactly right. That's what we let off with.
That's right. The policy isn't, the public is sitting in your hands right now. It is going to be work. But it was important because we have all of you together to let's talk about it and say, here's the sandwich. Everybody take a bite.
I know that this is not going to go over well. Also, maybe throw the possibility for technicians given incentive base. So, our time, that's something that's taboo. Throw it out.
So again, the units get to figure out the details of what is legal and can be done. I think that there are going to be legal issues with give them comp time, because then do they, I think there's gonna be, with that. But again, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not even paralegal, so. But again, the units get to figure out the details. Yes?
Sir, are there any other requirements you're gonna put in there besides the formation once a week? Just that?
That's it.
How soon did you see this coming?
The goal was 1 November. But because of the technician and Title V piece, I'm probably not going to make it, the policy's probably not going to make it out by then because it's in the SJA review right now. We'll see when it is. The goal, like I said, was 1 November. And I can tell you there's a lot of units that are already doing it because they want to try and get hit.
The technician piece is only.
It is. You're exactly right.
So get them on RSD weekend.
Correct.
So just get the shit done. That's all I'm saying.
So
it's coming. Make a freaking plan and get the shit done.
If life was that simple, just get the shit done, then we'd already be doing it. So, but there
And we would have a policy.
are complications. It's not quite that easy. Sorry.
Real quick, has any other state done this?
I don't know.
And the reason I'm asking is because you're asking a question about the Title 32.
So I've had conversations at NGB about this, and I don't think anybody's. They haven't brought it up to me that anybody has.
We got one more minute, and then we're wrapping this up.
Florida does it, G. All the 290s.
Mandatory fitness. So the wing might do it.
Are we going running?
Not the state.
Let's go. 20-mile rush march.
Okay, there was one last question.
I was just gonna say, I'm not currently a Title 10 or a GS technician manager, but when I was one, my question would be, when I come up with the solution, who do I contact to make sure that it's legal?
You route it through your chain, through your full-time chain. That's how it's going to get routed up. I'm sure it's probably going to be the unit has to either sell it to the group commander, and then the wing or air commander. That's probably going to be the chain that obviously approves. Okay, this is what you're going to do. Sounds good. The devil's in the details. A little bit of how do you enforce it? I have a little bit of concern that the farther away from Camp Avery you get, the more loose it's going to be. That's just a little bit of concern.
Oh, I know.
But again, this is all going to be internal to the unit and how it gets done.
But the only reason I'm asking the question, Chief, is just because, if I was in a GS management position, then I would imagine that my commander would come to me after getting the policy and say, how do you intend to enforce this, GS role manager?
I would hope that they would do that. Now, I do know that there are some commanders or people in those positions that don't do that. They're just going to dictate. But that's also an internal unit thing that dynamic has to be worked out.
I know, just it's just a point for you to consider. Maybe you already have, out of my 4 Title 5s, 3 of them don't have a military obligation. One of them has a lung issue where he's never going to be able to work out. So what kind of paperwork now do I need for a Title 5? No military need.
There's no paperwork. It's going to be exceptions. So they'll just have to be that the commander knows. So whenever the question is asked, why are whoever, whether it's military or not, why they're not participating.
If they're on profiles and all that, that's all going to get, obviously, you're in a wheelchair, too bad, go roll around. All right, we gotta wrap this up, but what the key here is, again, y'all, I've said it 100 times, we are a big part of determining how this gets implemented when it does come down. And we're chiefs, we're leaders. These are military organizations, not technician and AGR organizations. These are military wings. All right, we're the chiefs. We make sure it happens. We figure out the best way to make it happen and fit all the statuses as much as possible. All right, so he's letting us know before it comes out. Once we get it out, then we start tackling how it gets coming. Okay, cool. All right, we're shifting gears now. One of the big things that feedback that I got that people wanted to talk about was the length of time it takes for technician announcements. Right? Okay. So So, I have asked A1 and State HR to be here to talk about this issues. I would like you all to come on up and we can start talking about all of this.
It's a tough crowd right here.
No stones, no slings, no arrows, please. Some of you may know Master Teresa Geyer. She was in the 136th a number of years ago. She's been up here at state headquarters for quite some time now. She is in A1, well actually the J1 now in Building 8, and technician-wise she works in the HR, or not, well, but it was a classification. Yes. Classification. So, and ma'am, I'm sorry.
I'm Crystal Clark. I also work in the HRO/J1. I work in HR systems, and I'm over classification and staffing recently. So I hope I can help answer your questions. But it's been about a week since I've been in that supervisory role.
It's your fault.
There we go.
And I also asked Ms. Shaw and Mr. Novietto from headquarters A1 to be here just in case there are any questions that they can.
But you've been in the
Okay, so they're here to answer questions. Obviously, I think one of the big things is why does it take so long once you submit a request for an announcement for the whole process to go through? Can y'all talk about what the process is when it gets here?
Sergeant Geyer takes a lead. Sorry.
So I guess I want to start with everything that's getting passed around right now. This is the brief that was given to the Commanders Council.
And I only make 20 copies. I'm so sorry. I have no idea.
So,
pass some over here. This side will be educated, this side will not.
Carry this here.
Looks like I'm the last one. If whoever can't get one, we can obviously provide digital copies so that y'all have a copy of what's being talked about. It's more informational because our organizational structure has changed quite a bit in the last few months, and this is the latest revision just for y'all's awareness. And then it's got some of the talking points and initiatives, you know, and on the first slide that kind of helps you understand what was briefed.
Listen up, guys.
I guess let me start before I go into my notes on what Crosslip talked about. Why does it take so long? So since the end of May, our office has been in a lot of flux with a lot of changes. Everybody started feeling those changes about August. August 14th, I believe, was the effective date of the larger set of changes. During that time frame, we lost 3 very senior individuals in our staffing section. That changes dynamics a lot. So you've got flux with sections moving around and 3 very senior folks, one on maternity leave, one accepted another job opportunity, and one retired after 36 years. So that leaves a hole, and that's going to cause some latency. There's also been latency with a lot of issues regarding maybe area of consideration and no qualified applicants coming in on your announcements. That's a problem. If we get a request and it looks like we haven't met the intent to fill that request for y'all for 2 years, but you look at the history and we've advertised 5 times, either non-selects or no qualified applicants, there's a problem there. Colonel Cook's intent is to not focus on velocity, but quality, and really ensure that when we're getting those announcements out there for y'all, they are what you're looking for. That's gonna only happen with communication. She put out to all the commanders that next week, if they want the RDOs in our office, sitting down, having some one-on-one training, and going over individual requests and ensuring that they read the way they should, based on our knowledge of how they should read, not what a supervisor thinks looks good but doesn't realize a key sentence is missing that will kill your area of consideration, then we'll do that. I think we had several takers, by the way. Looks like the 129th might be there Tuesday morning, so we'll see how it goes. It's going to be a process, but we are working to get better at that. Open continuous announcements, especially for a lot of y'all's wage positions. Those positions are constantly fluctuating and changing. Instead of you submitting a new request every time you lose somebody or somebody goes into a leave without pay status, you're pulling a cert. It's already out there. Who's on the list that's applied that meets the criteria for you to look for and select, which will help expedite those fills. But it's a process. And it's not gonna be a quick one, if you will. It takes time, but there are things in place. I was just in DC, at the Readiness Center at NGB and A1 the last 2 days with Colonel Cook. Had a lot of good meetings with A1, with TN, and with the manpower side on the Army side, and lots of conversations about things, about the Air AGR realignment, and understanding, you've got those positions that might be vacant that may realign, but they're vacant now, and you need a body in them. And one thing Colonel Cook has said is she's not going to stop you from backfilling those positions just because they may realign in 6 months, because you have that need now. So it's another thing that will help kind of fill that backlog, if you will. Timeline, I'm going to have to take a page out of Colonel Cook's book, and she's not willing to give a timeline on days, 85 days, 200 days, whatever it may be, because ideally, whatever the scenario is, she wants to get that down far lower than what a recent Lean Six Sigma project indicated would be ideal, just because she feels like it should be better. So it differs. Some announcements have taken, maybe 200 days. Some announcements maybe we've been able to knock out in 45 and get a body on the ground. It just depends on, again, the quality of the announcement and the applicant pool. And a lot of that has to do with area consideration. So I know it's probably not what you wanted to hear, but there's, I guess, my groundwork for how things have been working. If you have specific questions, myself and Ms. Geyer will try to answer them. Yes, sir?
I understand y'all lost some heavy hitters in your team. When do you anticipate getting bodies on the ground for y'all?
Colonel Cook has tried to make actually filling those vacancies a priority for us. Typically, we don't look to our office first, but we can't support you. We can't support the units or the onboard employees with their issues if we are not staffed to do so. So we do have announcements out there. We still have some being worked to be advertised. I think we've got about 5 vacancies in our office right now, as it stands, to get right. And if they're not out, they should be out in the next 2 weeks or so that we can get somebody with short announcements. I mean, we're not looking for a month to see who we can get, like 5-day announcements. So we're working hard at that right now. Yes, sir.
So would you entertain having a representative from our unit come up and you schedule when they can sit with you so they can process our records?
I would love to say yes.
No, because I want to validate. I understand about the heavy hitters, but when I have advertisements over a year old, there's an issue.
Agreed.
And an advertisement that's over a year old for a WS9, which is a critical position in the shop, and we've tried. We've tried every angle, we've tried every call, every person. Or charts, you want the baloney pink with the green, now you want the green with the baloney pink, it's all these different variables, and it's always not an excuse, but a change. Okay?
Understood.
So if we could provide you that individual, because there's also the perception, and maybe you can validate the rumor, is that Army gets priority over air.
I would say that's not necessarily true.
Okay, and that's just the rumor that's out there.
And I will tell you, as someone who works in the J6 as a technician here at Camp Avery, which means Army, they do not get priority. It's slow there too.
Okay, so
they're equal opportunity.
If you would entertain, we would have somebody up every week, sitting down with you to help you while your time of vacancies.
The reality is our priorities are set by TAG. She dictates what units get priority when we can't go in first come, first serve order. And right now we can't go in first come, first serve order. And it's based on missions and where we're having critical needs that need to be filled first. So she dictates our priorities. In a perfect world, it's first come, first serve because we don't have a backlog and things are getting knocked out. As far as somebody coming and sitting in our office, the portion that I think probably takes the most time, once we have all of the information we actually need and we understand there's not a miscommunication between what's put here versus what might be in a follow-on email, etc., because a lot of times there's conflicting information and we want to make sure we have it right. That is a licensed access. We can't even get access for everybody in our office. We've got 5 right now. We're fighting for 2 more with NGB. It's looking good, according to my meeting on Wednesday, that we're going to get those 2 additional. And then some other folks with view only so they can maybe go in and review, but not action on anything. But we can't give that level of access outside of our office or to even everybody in our office to be able to build those announcements, to get those actions worked.
So let me ask you a question. You talked about the tax priority, you work in the tax priority. So is the vehicle for the wings to defend moving up some of their announcements on the priority list, is it through the air commanders, wing commanders, through General Farrell, or is it through, you still have the Thursday afternoon, the Thursday meeting? How does that get communicated?
That is a good question. And through their DP, am I saying that right?
Yes.
Through the A1 or through the DP at the wings, that would probably be your ideal way to get to, because they're the ones submitting to us what the priority is. We have reached out to the wings. We have lists of priorities from all three wings. I think we asked for the top 10 and we've got them. Unfortunately, a lot of the top 10, whenever I did the research, those jobs have been advertised, like I said, some 6 times. Well, I can appreciate the hurt for not having the fill, but 6 times there's a problem. Where is the problem? I wasn't able to go further personally into my analysis on those, but just that overarching view, that's an issue. And it could be something similar to like the position you're trying to fill. If the announcement's been out there, and out there, and out there, we have to try a different avenue. We did get some confirmation on a better way to incentivize those positions that we're having a hard time filling, that we're not getting qualified applicants for, or not getting any applicants for, because they can make more money doing it somewhere else. And Colonel Cook briefed again to all of the commanders to ask for a list, and this could be an avenue for you, from the commanders to ask for a list of those positions that they deem critical all the time. They're just critical positions. Because to give those incentives, we do have to have TAG approval. She wants a consolidated, one memo consolidated for TAG signature that says, yes, she agrees, and it'll be updated on an annual basis. So some of those positions will automatically be able to go out there, and yes, as we re-advertise certain areas, we probably need to reconfirm with comptrollers, yes, we're still good with paying out that dollar amount. But the approval is already there if the money is there to put recruitment and PCS, and if it's somebody wanting to leave, retention incentives on those positions to hold folks in those spots or to get them in. And all of that was discussed along with the incentives for Bureau except when it comes to the realignment. Yes, sir.
I know you guys are trying to get your office healed and stuff. But y'all focus on keeping like Title V types. I know you can't rehash the whole business, but I know you used to have Title 32s in there and you lose continuity. People be deployed with their brigade or guns or whatever else. So if you guys can focus on keeping a continuity in there and not tied to the military side of the house, would probably be beneficial to the whole state because you can maintain your continuity in your office.
Right, and prior to June, our entire office the entire HRO was Title V. That has changed. We have a mix now, and actually Colonel Cook's looking to mix it more. The HRO should represent the field. We don't have a lot of HR, I say that, I need to go back to J1. The J1 should represent the field, but more specifically, the full-time portion of J1 should represent the field. We should have 532 and AGR, Army and Air, in our positions so that you have the right mix. And she is looking to incorporate back into the mix some more Title 32 positions and some AGRs. That being said, we're not looking to let go of the current Title 5s we have.
At least put stipulations to where they can't rotate the brigade and stuff, because that kills us when you get people
I'll talk about that. Well, you can't do that. It is, but I heard somebody say it's based on the individual. You can't say you're going to be here for the rest of your career, because then that stagnates them for promoting up. It stagnates the units for being able to rotate people and get the experience. And as she's saying, Colonel Cook is really into trying to create the environment that does reflect the field. And she's come to me multiple times already asking for air people to come up and take some of these positions. As you heard her say, there's quite a few that are vacant. So they're trying to get those filled, and even so much so that the E9 position in there, she wanted to leave it open for everybody. So it could be an air person or an Army person. It's not one or the other. Always going to be this. So, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but you still got to give those people that are your personnelists, your 42 Alphas personnelists on the Army side, you still gotta give them an avenue to do staff work, and this goes back to what I brought up on my first, or one of my line of efforts is development. They need to get up here and do staff work so they understand how our organization works to be able to grow. So,
I
sorry.
actually had a question with regards to that, Chief. So Chief Pernicious mentioned earlier, the idea of having J-staff tours, or having staff tours. Would that be at all, if a resource could be found, would it be useful to have somebody on, a 4-year staff tour in your office? I know that having somebody just come up and augment over a weekend is probably much over the work, simply because they don't have the accesses and you gotta train them on how to do it. But if they were there for 3, 4, 5 years.
So while she's writing, I will tell you, that a lot of times having them in place full-time is not the issue.
Correct.
What manning document do we put them on? Because they have to go on the state headquarters manning document. And if we don't have that AFSC or it's filled up, what do we do? That is oftentimes the issue is what military slot do we put them? Because they've got to go on the manning document here. That's a very small man.
So if your unit's willing to let them go and still pay for them, it'll happen every day.
It'd make it a lot easier.
Sure.
The wing is willing to.
Maybe. Ms. Shaw?
Okay, so here's the thing with that, your unit has to be willing to take it out of high.
Yep.
You can remain on your wing UMB, you don't have to come up and be on the state UMB, but your unit has to be willing to let you remain there on paper, but go work somewhere else, which is usually the hard part, right? Because nobody wants to give up their manpower, nobody wants to, give up those slots. So you can remain on your wing document, but they have to be alright with letting you do that,
But if
which
it's
is sometimes the issue.
If it's a DSG and they have USARA rights, they might buy it,
Sure, oh yeah, I mean, it's definitely an option, for sure.
DSGs don't.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, they do when they go on full time,
I'll take my
on
orders from
AGR or
Federal
something. I think that's what she's talking
The
about.
AGR technician wouldn't work.
No.
If we're willing to let folks go up to state, why are we not willing to put them decentralized into the wings? Decentralized off the CSAP's a direction.
So-
Push that water down, push that stuff down far.
Because they do not just air.
Hold on, Chief. We're grabbing and we're building a big J staff to combine, so we're building in the center. And then now we've got HR, we're building in the center, but we should be pushing down.
So decentralize the J1?
I'm sorry?
Decentralize the J1?
No, I see where you got the J1, but then why can't you have off spurts off of that? Decentralize off of that. Have the satellites down at the wings.
That'll augment your.
If you're offering to come up, why is that any different than putting them out there?
Well, you're saying give hiring authority to the wings, and the conversation was bring help up to J1 to process packages.
Well, that's.
Two very different things.
Absolutely, but that's the issue. If we can't get it up here, then give us the authority at our level to where we can do it.
That's a great thought. Well, but if the, if the person's negotiating from the wings, there's some other relationship to it. Go ahead. Yeah, either way you win.
I've made notes of the things that I can't really answer to or speak to, but I will tell you when it comes from a system access level and who has the ability to push the button in the system to approve an action and how that's delegated down, it comes from NGB down to TAG. TAG delegates that down to whomever the HR or J1 is. It doesn't go much further than that. So to take it and then turn around and push it out to wings and units, that really takes the oversight and authority of the TAG and spreads it really thin. And that's my answer just from my knowledge on how it works. I'm not going to say that would be Colonel Cook's official answer, but I will absolutely take back the question to her.
Please don't take it as a negative thing, but wing commanders have the TAG authorities diverted down to them. But I want to pull off that and go, I have seen some great things through the HR and how they've been doing things, especially with the AGR program, big successes. So I want to thank you guys. We're not trying to beat you up. We hear our frustrations, and we're trying to do right for our airmen and fill in the vacancies that we have. And if I know there's nobody comes to work going, oh, we're going to screw this wing today. That doesn't happen. We know that. And we want to thank you for doing all you can. And there is a better tone within the HR and then the J1 coming down. So we're seeing great things. So I do want to say thank you.
So I will tell you, obviously, they know, the tag knows there is an issue. That's the reason why Colonel Cook was talking at the AEC this morning. There's a reason why they're talking to the Army side, because again, it's across TMD. So, yes, they are doing great things for us, and they also are going through a whole lot of turbulence with the reorg of the J and G staff all getting completely combined as one, and then again, like you said, losing a lot of people and experience. Just like you talked about, you know, I'm shorthanded, and you know, I still got to get to work done. They're in the same boat. So thank you for the comments.
I was just going to say one thing. So to put a little perspective too, you're talking about giving authorities down to the wing level. You got to remember, there's only 3 wings. There's 9 brigades. So if we did that, we're going to do that to them too. What's that going to take away from? And just as she said, the TAG's authority, the wing commanders don't have the same authorities as the TAG.
No, but she can delegate.
Well, she can delegate only to a certain extent, but I can tell you right now, the TAG doesn't work that way, this current TAG. She wants to know what's going on and get the pulse and understand and fix the problem instead of pushing it down to you. That's what she doesn't want to do. So this reorg was a big part of that because we did have fractures in what's going on and what's happening. So she wanted to make sure that J1 now, whatever section they're in, that they have the people and the ability to do this instead of it going, well, it's not our fault, it's G1's fault. Or it's not our fault, it's A1's fault. Not that they ever do that. That's why. So that's where we're at with this, and it will be better. I'm hopeful. It will be better with the reorg and the way things are going because, and another piece, I'm sorry, I'm going a little longer. We had positions that were out there also, just like you do, that seem to never get filled on the staff. So what they did with this reorg is that's why they brought the J, the G together and said, okay, we have all these things we can't get done because we're missing all these positions, people won't fill them. Let's bring what we have together, put it together, so now we got a full staff instead of half here, so that we can get this stuff done. But some of the leadership positions that were changed out, that hit us hard, and it still is a little bit because we're trying to recover from those movements that were made in that direction. And I can't go further into that. So just to let you know, that, and I appreciate you saying that, Chief of Corps, because they are doing a great job. And they're trying to make do with what they can, and they are shorthanded just like the rest of us trying to do with what they can. So there are processes going on that they are doing improvement processes, trying to figure out what can we take out, because there might be 20 steps, we only need 10. So that's being done. And there were some quick kills, and we heard about it, you know, the other day that they have done right away. So that doesn't make sense. You're right. Get rid of it. So they are trying to work with you and get these done a lot faster.
Chief Cross.
I'm sorry. Back on what the chief talked about. When we were just talking about somebody would have to take it out of hide to give you people, it might be an alternative that if the 136 decided to take somebody out of hide, they came up, you train them, they're sufficient, they're all blessed and good to go, then that individual would go back and could work from their unit. The 149th would do it, the 140s. It might be a way that you can get them to give you somebody out of hide.
Understood.
If you said, hey, they go back to be with you, but they really kind of report to us. And
Still goes back to authorities.
Well, yeah, but you build in some checks and balances to make sure that what has to happen
is done the right process.
Done right. And then Colonel Cook as the hiring authority, whoever it is, still, everything looks right, dress, you know, signs off. I mean, I don't know how.
Like I said, I can see you know, the thought process, and I absolutely made note of it, and I will take it back to her and have a conversation. I just can't speak to if that's possible or not.
Are there resources to support that time at stake? Those folks while they're here training or down here working, do we have the days? So okay.
So that's why it said the wings would have to take it out of high.
Oh, yeah.
That's more than money.
What money? I mean,
Oh, we got lots of
budgets.
We got lots of it. That's fine. All right.
Mr. Funny Guy.
Can you reiterate what you said a minute ago about the servants themselves and being able to use the list of names again?
Yes. So, and you might need to step in with me on that, but an open continuous announcement. A WG8 mechanic. You have lots of them, that's good. You're going to have more lower graded than you are your WS9s and things like that, right? Instead of having that request sent in every time you have one rotate out, they go on a mob, so you need to backfill. They move to a different position because they were like that they leave us and go you know, to active duty or to an airline, wherever it may be. Instead of constantly resubmitting that request, we would have an announcement posted, open, continuous. And as you have a need to select from that, let us know. We pull a cert with the current qualified applicants on hand, we give it to you, you review it, and you can make your selection.
Okay, so the point there is you're keeping a job open.
Pretty much, yes.
I thought it was only allowed for a year to be.
We'd have to look at that. I know
Yeah, there's gotta be a time.
Well, you said that you had one job that you advertised 6 times. I know on USA Jobs, they keep it open until they get certain applications, then they close it. Can you guys do that same thing?
That's something we could look at.
I would have to look at the
That
rules
would save you
on
time
that.
instead of re-advertising. It's open until you receive so many applications.
Well, I think what you're saying is, okay, you know, there's the open until filled. What you're saying just, what they're saying is, you have one, it closes, they have multiple applicants, you can still use that same cert 3 months later.
It doesn't
when
close.
When a new job, okay.
It doesn't close. That's the key. We can't put I do know this. I can't put a stipulation, okay, we got 10 applicants, we're closing it. If you put a close date on it, it closes on that date. If you have to modify that, or modify something that you put an addendum and it has to be published for X amount of time with the addendum. We can do open until filled, which is a continuous, and then once a month we pull down what the cert would look like and see who has currently applied that's qualified, and let the supervisor make a selection off of it.
But that would save you a lot of time instead of
Yes,
closing and
and that is
re-advertising.
something that Colonel Cook is
It's
very much
a waste of
entertaining and wanting to get involved in. Would we maybe have to redo it annually? That's a possibility. Again, typically in systems, so I understand staffing and classification, but some of the rules I'm not 100% spun up on, so I would have to confirm. But even if we had to renew it annually is not every other week when you have somebody else turning in, you know, resignation or a set of orders. Hey, I've got an opportunity, I'm going to be gone for 3 years. So.
We constantly are firing up with you guys, but we'd love to hear what, and especially these policymakers and people who can get things done, what bugs you about the wings that we publish here in this group?
That I will let Ms. Dyer, because, and I'm not throwing her under the bus, because when it comes to hands-on, our classification section gets the RPA first. So when there's an error, they're going to catch it first. And a lot of your back and forth, whether it be on the air side or the Army, is going to happen in her shop. She's going, this number doesn't match this, or you gave me a rank spread of this that doesn't typically make sense. Let's look at this. Your UMD line says it's this AFSC, but you're wanting to advertise this. We need other documents to make these things happen.
Well, so in classification, we typically look at the position information. So I have been in staffing in the past, and with that, we look at the recruitment strategy. So from when we look at it, there could be problems with the SFP2 that we have to go back to the remote to ask questions about, or if it's a supervisory position, we'll need an organizational chart to make sure that, you know, it's proper organizational structure. And I did put out on the A1 call on Thursday that we need pay tables to be requested as well, to make sure when people are selected that there's not a missing org and then the person ends up not getting paid. So those are just a few things that we're trying to work on. You know, and there's going to be errors, onesie, twosie here. There's just so much detail to it. And there's also a problem with, you know, every month, you know, NGB puts out a new UMD. Pass back PEC information could change. So what they submitted may be different by the time we work the action. So, I mean, there are lots of variables that we can't really help. But it's just attention to detail and making sure people, you know, cross-check their information. And then they put, you know, they do look at their recruitment strategy and what we were talking about with those announcements that, you know, several times they kept being, you know, re-announced. Those were like multiple WG 10 or 12, I think, announcements at the 149th. It was just like, you know, they had like 5 positions, and then the cert might have had, you know, 3 people on it. So you have to re-announce, you know. You might not like the pool of applicants, or, you know, obviously there weren't enough applicants. So you have to continually announce it. Since they do have the new special pay table, I think you're going to be able to get more people, because that's pretty good bump in pay. But that's kind of what we look at, just, you know, the UMD information, which obviously is constantly changing. And yeah, you just need to make sure your recruitment strategy is, you know, broad enough that you're going to be able to have a good pool of applicants. But that's more more on the staffing side. Open to until field, I think is really going to help, especially the maintenance field because of the turnover. You have the realignment ongoing with people going to AGR, and we're going to talk about, how we're going to fill those positions as a backfill as well with, the 147th, they're losing a lot of tech positions, so their structure is going to change quite a bit. So we're in a big evolutionary process right now, and you're going to see a lot of changes with the tech program, I think, going forward, as well as the AGR program. So we're just trying to, do the best we can with it. And, your feedback is appreciated, and your patience, obviously, during this time is appreciated. We're changing our structure in our office to, like in the classification section, our announcements. Well, we're announcing some new positions. What we're gonna do is we're gonna combine classification and recruitment and placement together. So even though in the past, classification didn't deal with the announcement, what we're going to do is we're going to build the position and the announcement. So it's going to free up some staffing because to bring on an employee, it's like, you're climbing a huge hill. There's just so much involved. So we're going to divide and conquer those sections and hopefully facilitate that going forward. Colonel Cook has a vision with, the person that builds the announcement gets with point of contact from each wing or whomever in the wing, and they'll sit with us maybe once a month or what have you, or we can do a VTC and say, okay, these are your announcements, let's go through them. Do you approve it? And so we can just put a bunch out, at the same time, so it's not like sending it to the supervisor and, when they get it, it might get lost in the email and they have to look at a template, or, they don't necessarily know what they're looking at, or they get busy and they don't get back to us on time, and they're like, where is it? And we're like, I don't know, we sent it to you. There's that ongoing issue with where is it? And so this would be kind of like bulking our work and trying to get things done rapidly in succession. So hopefully that will help going.
So, Chief, you opened up the can, so I'm going to allow, from a military perspective, I'll let A1 answer your same question as far as what do the wings do that aggravate A1? Sergeant Oviedo? No, you don't want to go there.
Are you in charge of the ADR program?
Me?
Yes, ma'am.
No, that as far as statement.
Right, so you guys mentioned that, like, for instance, 147 is getting ready to convert a lot of positions.
There were military personnel on our side.
Okay, so are you going to put an ADR conversion briefing
Yes, we will be reaching out to the wing. I know last year when we did it, it was the week before Thanksgiving and the week after that it happened. This week, this trip to A1 to gain some clarification on some things and get a better understanding, making certain that while what we did last year wasn't wrong or bad, it should have and could have been done better, and we plan on doing it better this go around. Colonel Cook wanted that clarity before we proceed forward, but that is going to be coming very quickly. The meeting at the wings with the individuals, helping them understand what their options are via VSIP. Because she briefed the commanders, I think I can brief here as well. We were 3 shy on our conversion last year. One person was in that person that was in the position that was selected was LWA. Converting them to AGR when they're currently on a Title 10 order just doesn't work. The other 2 folks were offered via VSIP. We offered it because we were told as a state, along with the other 54, that's an option. But we never received confirmation back that we could finalize it and provide that. And we finally had to tell the individuals, we can't give it to you. And we got it congressional, and we deserved it. In talking in July at the HO+2 conference, I was there with Colonel Cook. The question was raised, what about VRV this year? We want to get ahead of the game. And the argument at that point put out was, it's A1's fault. They didn't respond to us in time. Okay, fine. So Wednesday afternoon, on Andrews in A1, I sat there with my own ears and heard Colonel Cook ask the question, and A1 was very quick to say, we have no dog in that hunt. We have no say, we have no authority. The FM will give guidance if they have concerns with finances, but it is ultimately J1, which a month and a half prior told us it was A1. So because of that, when the notices go out and when we get all that out, Colonel Cook has committed to going back to NGB probably the week or 2 after the request is submitted and saying, where's my answer? I want it now. And making certain that we get it right away on the front end, so we're not promising things we can't give, and we have all of the tools we need to make it a successful realignment, so that those that realign should realign, are ready to realign, ready to move forward. We're not hindering their future and retirements and things of that nature. And those that maybe don't want to but are eligible for other options can take advantage of those options.
No, go ahead, real quick, but we do have to wrap it up.
I'd like to reiterate that you all doing this for your organization in the teeth of doing, what is it, the 3rd year of AGR conversion is amazing. So, because I like positive things, and that's a positive thing. People, 75% AGR, 25%, et cetera, is a great direction, and you guys accomplishing it, even with all the craziness with J1, I think is amazing. I do have a question though. It seems to me like, because a lot of the problems with staffing the whole hiring process is just reaching out to the leaders that have to be involved in it. And if we were to have a dialogue, like if we knew what our timelines looked like, if we knew where we were in the process and had a direct line of communication with a person down there that would, or people, or where it was in the process, so who's next, who we're talking to next, and just got a wag, then we could give that wag to our senior leadership and say, hey, on X day, can you block out a week, and then you're going to need the board, and we have a reasonable anticipation we're going to need you at that point.
Agreed, and as Ms. Geyer said, that is part of what Colonel Cook's vision is. Right now she's thinking monthly. It could be more frequently. Yeah. But having the remotes or people from units or sections or RDOs at the wings, we have, an RDO or 2 for each wing. Right. So typically they're your avenue to come. But having them come and sit, okay, here's what you've got submitted. Here's what we've got built. Let's you and I review together and ensure we're meeting the intent of the supervisor who's requested this action, so that when it goes out right. There's no back and forth emails, there's no back and forth phone calls, there's no confusion when it comes to that, and it's out there. And when that process starts, along with that's going to come your timeline. You're going to know it was advertised here, it will close here, you should have your cert by this date, probably 7 days later or so, depending on how long it takes to qualify and how many applicants you get, and then there's your timeline started. And that kind of communication, there was discussion about trying to do it on the A1 call. I think that kind of detail would hijack the A1 call and probably doesn't have the people who need to be involved in the conversation all on it. So potentially having on the times where we don't have someone in the office going over their requests, having a conference call of our own to just touch base. Here's where we're at. Here's the next schedule for folks to come in the office and sit with, you know, X, Y, or Z person to go over your staff. That is definitely in the plans for the future. Yes.
So the one thing I would say with my conversations with A1 and also with HRO, I will tell you there are designated avenues of inquiry from the wings to A1, to HRO. They're your HRO remotes and your FSS. What doesn't help is multiple calls from commanders, from chiefs, from supervisors. What's the status of my package? What's the status of my package? That only slows things down. There is a process for that communication to happen. So I'm asking you, probably fall on deaf ears, and if I was sitting in your chair, I might still call because the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? I'm asking you to control that, you know, minimize that as much as possible. Use your FSS as it's supposed to be used. Use your HRO remote as they're supposed to be used. They are the provider, they're the conduits there. Okay, any last questions? Yeah.
So a couple things. Is there any way, is there anything that the wings can do to help us get out of the backlog right now? As far as sending people up, or I know it's been kind of talked about, but what do you need from us to help us get out of this?
Honestly, getting remotes in the office to help with training on their end to ensure that we're getting accurate data off the bat and not the back and forth before we get to where we need to be, and coming in and sitting with us. That is something Colonel Cook is focused on. So that's what she's looking at. That's what she briefs the commanders. And like I said, I believe the 149th is supposed to be here Tuesday, and the 147th said, okay, after that, when can we come? So we've got the requests in queue, and that's going to be the expediting right there. That and not that anybody's not, but I know my inbox makes me want to cry. Being responsive to your remotes, if they're asking you questions, if you submitted something to them and we're telling them this doesn't match and they can't figure out how to duplicate, being responsive to them so that they can in turn be responsive, especially if it's a time where we have them sitting with us in the office and we're trying to go through 30 requests and make sure 30 announcements are ready to go and the button is pushed, but we have a question on one aspect. If you can be responsive to them. Again, I'm not saying that anybody's not, but I know how email and communication can be lacking in some areas and all-consuming in others. That's maybe one way that individual supervisors could really work to help.
And then the second part is to follow up on Chief Cass's statement. Is there any way that we can have visibility on the status of our announcements, as in the statement I get from the RDO is it's at stake. That's the status I get. That's not a valid status to me. Yeah. Is there, how does it go to state, and is it in gears? Should we have visibility of that?
It's not in gears.
Okay.
It's not in gears because there is a DODI that mandates the use of DCPDS. So that request is in DCPDS and only in DCPDS. And I cannot grant access to everyone. Colonel Cook is looking at expanding the use of DCPDS further than the remotes. That's going to be a lot of coordination. The 149th may be our test wing, although I don't know that was for sure cemented this morning in the meeting. But that's going to require a lot of interaction with supervisors and not a lot of supervisor changeover, because what it takes to give that access is a lot of scrutiny on our part, my part specifically, on documentation. Before I send it to NGB, and NGB sends it to the system administrator to build a profile, to come back down, and you can see the chain that we go through. And to change that frequently would make that impossible to keep up with. It is a possibility to do. DCPDS is designed to do it. It's just really hard when you have a large organization like we do.
FSS superintendent, correct me if I'm wrong, are even the technician in AGR announcements and all, y'all track them as far as timelines, right? Yeah. So you should again be able to go to your FSS and they're tracking them, you know, continually to try to get good information.
It's being tracked. The chairman pointed out that for the audio, but what's also in our unit we've done is activated the audio remote. So they have meetings to educate them, but also to keep them abreast of any actions that they're
thank you all so much for coming. It really helps when the chiefs can ask the questions to someone other than HR, their HR remotes, or me. They're talking directly to the source. At least now they feel heard, and they can go back with some more information. And now you all have some things that you can follow up on as well. So thank you very much. And A1, thank you. That's Miss Shaw. She is the A1, so she's the A1 steak sauce. So just call it the sauce. She's the sauce. Okay, thank you all. All right, real quick, let's do a break back at what's that? 3:30. We're going to talk about OAY, SEAC, and E89.
You should have brought up Michelle Smile. I said that to her the other day. I was like, man, you smile.
On a good day.
It's blue.
So you know when you come on Avery off 35th Street, and everybody takes that shortcut there when you come up. Every circuit that serves the guys in that yard other than me comes in through there. The one guy's car is in there, and we here. I run that. Yeah. Hey, Steve, you got. Well, I mean, fortunately, just like there, one of those weekend jobs, the technician bosses are understanding. But he sees them. But now we. But see, he. But then you work hard, and then they do. It might come off at the end of this year. Dire. So I don't know. We'll see. Like I said, I put it and also put it work. In our department, no, straight from Duke was. I bought a lake house north of the park. So everyone, like, starting at the end of the lake, the Sugarloaf, in the middle of the lake, I basically right around. Yeah, I'm right across. I'm like 10 miles away. Well, my house is back. It's being renovated right now. It's so yeah, it's gorgeous.
That's it. We have a house. We call it out 7 work days at 10 o'clock. All you hear is about you know?
The airport is done. talked about a couple of A1 issues, and I said, why would I do it when we have the experts here? So Master Sergeant Yvette Oviedo here has a couple things real quick before we move on to see Acting AY.
A lot of you know, last week or the week before, the awards regulation changed. There's no more qualifying positions for LOM, so chiefs can now receive LOMs in case you didn't know that. In case you are a chief retiring in the next 6 months to a year, you probably should have started writing that yesterday. So just so you know, our processing time, once they get here, A1 reviews, and we have to up-channel to tag, which can take anywhere from 30 to 60 days. And then we have to give NGB the courtesy of enough time to get those to the DANE. So we ask for 6 months from the time they get to headquarters for them to process it through here to NGB. So keep that in mind. With your state awards, your TSSMs, and your Lone Stars, we ask for at least 120 days because A1 doesn't sign them, they still have to go to tag. We review them, up-channel them through the air channel and then the Army channel, so they're not just signed overnight. Pay attention to those narratives with the opening and closing lines. Those are our biggest issues with the awards, is that the opening and closing lines aren't worded properly, or the content. What else? Job announcements on the DSG side. We get a lot of those from the FSS, and then a couple weeks later we'll say, hey, we need this correction on this job announcement, can you please correct it? Our shop is pretty small, and it's getting smaller next week. So when you're asking FSS to send us a job announcement, please look it up with the latest Air Force Enlisted Classification Guide to make sure that it mirrors exactly what you want. Pay close attention to the duration of the job. We can modify those, but we can't always do them instantaneously for you guys. And that would help us out a lot. What else? Exception of policies for excess overgrades. We get a lot of those up here. We ask you guys to do a really clear force management plan. What's the exit plan for the individual? What's the resolution? Those are answers that we're going to get asked by the chief, we're going to get asked by the general at times from NGB. So if you just give us a clear plan on your force management plan, that helps us from kicking the ETPs back and forth to the wing multiple times. I think that's it on our end.
Thanks. I will, seeing that we kind of, thank you all, appreciate it. I will kind of touch on one thing it reminded me and I kind of wanted to bring up. So this doesn't happen very often, but with state awards, the Superior Service Medal and the Lone Star Medal, as always, submit them in a timely manner in the appropriate time block. I think for Lone Star, it's got to be turned in within 2 years of the action. And I bring this up because we kind of got in a little bit of an awkward situation where a commander wanted to submit somebody, we're submitting them for the Lone Star and the Superior Service Medal at the same time. And the dates for the Lone Star were outside of the window, so it got rejected. What did the commander do? He went back and he just changed the dates. And so it was, and both of them were going to get given, at the same time. I am all about, making sure that our people are recognized and awarded for what their accomplishments are. But let's make sure we do it in a timely manner, because you start getting a lot of questions like, okay, well, if you're getting submitted for a Superior Service Medal, it should include this time that's on the Lone Star. Oh yeah, but he also earned the Lone Star. What it boiled down to is a different unit in the wing didn't submit that member for the award, and now the new commander wanted him to get it. And so after it got rejected, he then went back and he just changed the dates and everything. It became a little bit of a back and forth in an awkward situation, and the member was the one that was kind of a little bit in limbo, when at the time it could easily be argued that they earned, a Lone Star Distinguished Service Medal, but the unit just waited multiple years to ever submit for it. So let's make sure we're doing this in a timely manner, and then not blocking up Lone Stars and Superior Service Medals at the same time. It just kind of gets a little bit awkward, for lack of a better term. So I would ask your assistance in that. Okay. OAY, the changes to the Outstanding Airman of the Year program and how it's being done. Okay, I know that there are some thoughts on this. What has I've spent a lot of time talking with General Farrell about this, and with the command chiefs, and I will say that, you know, I was the first one back when I was a wing command chief that kind of started asking the question, why are the GSUs, why do the GSUs get to compete, come straight to headquarters to compete at the state level instead of competing through the wings, especially once they became part of wings. All right, it didn't make a whole lot of sense to me for a couple of reasons. Number one, if I was the 136 Wing Command Chief and two of my units were 221st, 254th, and they had to send packages with Command Chief endorsements, and I wasn't endorsing them because I was sending up wing packages, how does that support the fact that I'm the Wing Command Chief or that Colonel Holt is the Wing Commander? How does a GSU going straight to state reinforce the wing organizational structure? My second issue is, how do I tell an airman in CE or in COM or any other squadron that has to compete in their squadron, their group, and their wing to come at state to get an LOM, a Medal of Merit or an Outstanding Service Medal, and a GSU gets selected for their squadron and they come straight to state and they get the same recognition as a wing selectee? How do I defend that? How do I go to that airman and say, here's why? So I couldn't, we had multiple conversations about it, and to me, well, and to General Farrell as well, we understand, you know, to a point, why GSUs, well, first of all, we understand how it got started. A lot of it got started back in the day when GSUs did fall under state headquarters. Okay, and then when the GSUs got rolled up under the wings, there was a feeling of, well, this is the way we do it. We also don't want to hurt the OAY January award ceremony. We want good participation, and we're concerned if we decrease the number of candidates, competitors, there'd be less participation. But as the more and more we talked about it and all the factors, pros and cons, and what is defendable, we came to the conclusion that the GSUs will compete through their wings for the state competition. The one question that also came into play was about state headquarters here. We do have airmen, we have outstanding airmen here, and how would they compete? We are administratively, because of the nature of the state headquarters, fall under the 149th, but we are not really a GSU. General Farrell does not fall under the command of Colonel Rosario. You know, so the state headquarters was a little bit different. We're still working out the details. This year we will compete with the 149th, but there's a good possibility what we will do is rotate any state headquarters airmen that are competing, you know, each year between the three wings to compete. However, that is, but we are not exempt from that as well. We don't get, as a state headquarters, we don't get to go directly to state, you know, and compete and get the same recognition as a wing award winner. I know that I have gotten feedback that does not sit well with some of the GSUs, most of the GSUs, and I want to give the opportunity now to talk about it. Yes, Chief.
So for us,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, Chief McCraw. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, man.
So for us, speaking for at least the 203rd out in El Paso, previously 204th, being so distant from our wing, as far as geographic location, 500 miles out, OAY was the one opportunity for us to get a good number of people out to do other things within the state wing. Because realistically, being on an Army installation, and Air Force being on an Army installation, working with the active duty, our people don't have those opportunities. And again, this being really the lone opportunity, other than maybe a governor's 20 or something like that, we lose a lot as far as their development in terms of understanding what the state does, what the wing does, and being a part of those functions. So for us, it's a big hit for that reason. The logic to me makes sense that you just explained, but for our people, I think it's a big negative, for a negative impact for our people. They're going to lose out on that big opportunity. And I speak from experience as an airman, not understanding what my wing did until I went to OAY.
And I get it, I do, and General Farrell does too. I think there are opportunities to fill that void with other again opportunities, other things to give that perspective to your airmen. You know, different councils, different state councils. You know, a deliberate effort by wing leadership to have a, you know, I don't know, a cross-pollination weekend or something like that. Hey, you come over to the wing and we're going to take you around the wing and help you understand exactly what the wings are. I get it, because I'm a firm believer in that development and that bigger understanding of the mission of the wing and especially how your unit fits into it. I think we can find probably even better ways of meeting that need that now doesn't, for lack of a better term, give a favored status to a GSU competitor or an advantage, you know, to a GSU competitor.
I just think OAY was a great opportunity. You had such a big pool of people from across the state. You had all wings, all organizations represented. It was a concentrated, you know, pool of people that you know, you can send an airman up there and get them exposed to everybody all at once. You know, I just think we're going to lose that.
Well, and we may, but so should every squadron get that opportunity throughout all three wings? Because they're not getting that same opportunity. I understand you're out in El Paso, so you're very much removed from you know, the rest of the wings over here. But you know, to me now, if I'm sitting in the operational support squadron at the 132nd, I'm like, hey, you know, I want my airmen to have that same opportunity. Can I send my airmen straight to state to get that exposure? How do I defend that the GSUs get it, but these units don't?
Because we're a GSU. Well, I think it's easier to break the opportunity. Well, it's easier to break the opportunity if you're sitting in an OSS at a wing. I mean, hey, so the problem, and just tell me that you thought through this, you've excluded more than you will have attend this year. Because you excluded 4 GSUs. Yeah. So essentially, right, 4 categories, airman, NCO, senior NCO, first sergeant. So 16 people you cut out. We'll have 12 people at OAY. And then combat that with, let's just say El Paso guys don't have any winners. Is General Farrell going to say, hey, I still want the commanders and the chiefs to come and be part of it? I mean, will that start getting excluded because you don't have a dog in the fight? Or, you know what I mean? Like, we spent all day talking about rewarding our people and get them here and give them an award and give them a letter of appreciation. And this was kind of a big deal where everybody could come together and they got to bring their spouse and their band.
Absolutely agree. Where's the equity for the squadrons in the wing proper?
Dude, I got empty slots. Tell them to transfer to 2
Spoken like.
Deliberate disadvantage, though, because it's hard enough as it is to, you know, I mean, it's human nature for people to want their guy. And unless you guys make sure that wherever you guys go for OAY, you better at least make sure that you got a voting member on the selection committee, because if not, you're putting your guys at a disadvantage. So that's something that needs.
So here's the other twist to it. You guys, right, the wing guy, you vetted through all your
2-day affair?
Logistically, that, it's not impossible, it would be tough, and I'll let, Rose kind of talk about that here in a little bit, but, I'm not saying it's impossible, but do you still not run into the same problem?
They would be competing at their wing level in Austin.
Okay, so the problem that solves is it gets everybody here in Austin for the weekend.
Everybody
Because,
is that way.
because what's important is that we have,
The group winners are gonna, the competition that you would have at the wing is gonna be had down here.
so group winners, because, know this, the 136 is the only wing that has a GSU that is a group level. All the others fall under a group. They're squadron levels and fall under a group.
Right.
So then they would need to compete at a group level before they would even come here. By your way. So Hensley is the 254th is a group.
They're group winners, is who they're saying, or have been saying OLY.
Right, but the 203rd, 204th, 273rd are squadrons. They fall under different groups. They would have to then compete at the group before that group winner would come here. Right. So instead of the 254th, which is a group, would come directly here. By that, and I mean, we can look at options. I'm not trying to say, hell no, this is the only way. What I'm concerned, and what General Farrell is also concerned about is equity. How do you defend it? How do you defend it to the people who don't get to come straight to state? They don't because they just happen to have the bad luck of being part of the wing. How do you defend it?
Is she concerned about attendance? Because like Chief mentioned, 149th alone, you just eliminated 12 people. And their organizations and support that's going to go to the event.
Certainly there is a concern about, what is the attendance going to be for the award ceremony. There is a little bit of a concern. We're kicking around a couple of ideas, but I also think that we won't know until we try. What would concern me is if the feeling is because my GSU doesn't get to go straight to state, I'm not going to attend. That would concern me, because what's the mentality there? That would concern me. If that's what the attitude would be, is I can't compete straight at state, then and I don't have any group winner or any wing winner. Screw it. I'm not going. It's not fair. I would be concerned with that.
Well, if you have a good troop, it won't matter. Go win anyway.
About that though is people don't have the funding. So the way the funding is right now, why would I send somebody if I don't have the funding?
Okay, so great point, great question, and I'm going to tell you right now because I talked with, and the command chiefs will tell you, I brought this up yesterday at AEC to all the wing commanders with General Farrell sitting right beside me. If there is any, we don't have the funding, I need to know, and we are going to squash that because that dog should not hunt. That's right. That dog should not hunt. That we don't have the funding. If that is what you're being told, I need to know that.
Yeah, but that happens now, though. Like, either Jackson or Crawford comes from the 221, but I'm not always both of them because we don't have the money.
I'm not,
I go with
right.
the colonel, and that's it.
We're not talking to everybody, but we're talking now, and right now we're talking about.
If that happens, and you say we don't have funding, it happens right now.
So right now, granted we're on a CR, but we're at the beginning of a fiscal year. All right, if what is preventing, orders being submitted for January timeframe to attend OAY, and if they say no because we don't have the funding, let me know. Let me know.
To the point of the money, and I think what you may have alluded to is my organization is only so while I 100% support OAY, if I don't have a guy in it, is my operation covering my trip to go attend the award ceremony? Because if it is, I would probably rather send one of my troops to a school than me go support that. So maybe that's the money piece. Is if the unit is funding it, then what's the unit getting out of it other than going, hey, I'm supporting the airmen from this other organization?
Right. I think, first of all, yeah, if there are mission, operational needs, okay, what the concern is, and I certainly have a concern, because I'm hearing it from SEAC members, that we don't get to compete directly at state, then we're not gonna attend, and we're not gonna let our SEAC members participate either. I have a problem with that attitude. I have a serious problem with that attitude. Because, hey, I'm taking my ball and I'm going home.
That is the question, that was my follow-up. So is GSU something that you still want 2 members from every GSU to be on CIAC?
Yeah, that gives the GSUs the representation, and the exposure of being on the SEAC, absolutely. Because again, we can't equate being a member of the SEAC because the SEAC members don't normally compete, right? So because the GSUs can't come directly to state, they're still a part of the wing, which is supplying members to the SEAC, which is serving all of us.
So now we'll have double the amount of SEAC members, like every OAY guy will have 2 SEAC guys to help them out, right? Because you're still gonna have 2 from every one, so you'll have.
You still have the same amount of SEAC members, and internally in the wings, the competitions are happening all the way up to the wing selection, and you have your SEAC members there across the wing to assist.
Yeah.
Yes.
I do think to a certain extent the success or failure of how this works out is going to be determined on how each individual wing chooses to implement its selection process. But speaking to your concern, I will say that I'm very concerned with the idea that an AGR would be asked to do this, while at the same time being told that we have 75% AGRs, 25%, et cetera, now, but there was no concomitant increase in O&M. And that's something Mr. Goldbach told us, 2 years ago? And I think it's still true, is it not? We didn't get any more O&M.
Just the whole bigger issue of now more AGRs, in the O&M, the lack of additional O&M, it's still an issue that is being worked.
Yes, sir.
And we don't have an answer to that.
But they're only funding mission critical, not mission advancement or any of that other stuff.
So that's the 149th, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So different wings do things a little bit differently, and I'm not going to get into how each wing budgets their money because that's up to the wings. But it can be projected. It can be. If attendance to the Outstanding Airman of the Year award ceremony for, let's say, 10 people from a wing is not going to be supported by the wing because it's not mission critical, I want to know that. So, we can talk to the wing and have that conversation about supporting your airmen, and is supporting your airmen mission critical? Because if you don't, are you going to have those airmen? So that is a conversation, absolutely. The 3 different wings and how they budget their money is how they do their budget planning are all very different and all very effective. So this is not a comment on that. But if that is what is being said as the reason for not supporting the event or your SEAC members from attending, I need to know that, because that's an issue. That is a small amount of money compared to the return. And if it's projected in the beginning of the year and projected before the fiscal year starts, there should be no reason why that's an issue. And I understand we don't make those decisions, the FMBs do.
Well, at the end of the day, it's taking care of airmen. That's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Chief, I got a question. Taking away money, right? I'm just talking the thought process of the GSUs, right? And the thought process of going VFR direct to state. What if the GSUs were a category amongst themselves and they would just come down here a day prior, and all the GSU selectees would compete for a single position to apply to compete at the state level?
Yep.
That way they would come down here, they'd still get the integration with the group, right? They would still get, but they would compete, however many GSUs are there, 7, 5, I don't know.
Like 7.
7, all right. So they would come down and they would compete in those 3 categories, and amongst that 7 would be a selectee who would then compete against the wing winners of that category. So you would essentially have four competing at the end, at the wing, I mean, at the state level, but the GSUs are allowed to compete amongst themselves for that one position. So it's almost like a wild card.
So now the wing winners have to do 4 levels of competition versus the 2 for the
Well,
GSU?
now that's double what they're doing now.
But they still fall under the wing.
I'm just saying.
Alright. Well, and
They
here's
still
the,
have
okay, when
winners
somebody,
within the GCUs. They still have winners. We're still recognizing airmen for being OAY at each GSU.
And the other thing now, how you suggested would still get to the result, because the other outcome that we have to have is we have to know who our state winners are to compete at region. So, you know, there was one suggestion about, well, we'll have a small category and a big category, but we still got to come up with one airman, one NCO, one senior NCO.
And you get that.
Yeah, with what you suggested.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, you got to think about the one negative with the way you suggest, Chief, is they don't get to tweak the package for another month or 2 if they come that same week. Unless you're talking about a totally different country.
No, sorry, that's the same weekend.
So there are, and there's another couple
It's like
thoughts.
baseball, it's the play-in game, right?
If the concern is that you're not gonna, the GSUs won't get a fair shake in the groups or the wings competition, one of the things you're saying is, I don't trust my wing.
No, we got a seat at that table. I'm board of the airmen. Mitchell, we're included in it. It's not the competition part, it's the awards your airmen. Give them awards, give them this, give them a certificate. And this was a way that, all the commanders and all the chiefs got to come together. And more importantly, all the members came to state headquarters and they brought their spouse and they got to get rewarded for doing well. And you just cut out 16 of them, and you're gonna reward 12 of them. And at a wing, we won't really all come together in kumbaya and say, here's the wing winners. We can try, but it's not the boarding part. Mitchell's included us in the board.
Right, so then I go back to, the GSUs get to do that. Why can't all the other squadrons do that then? Why do they not get the ability to do that?
You're huge, you're a wing. There's all
That the GSUs are a part of.
Why do you get to go to the base movie theater and I get to go stand in?
Wait a minute, there's a base movie theater?
I want to
Wait a minute. Where is that?
Let's go to the no duck pond, we don't.
Okay, all right. Chief, all right, guys, Chief.
What was let me just ask this question. What was SEAC's recommendation with this decision about moving?
Rose, I'll let you answer that. I will say it was mixed.
What was the overall recommendation?
Well, we did absolutely understand, hey, there's a lack of equality, right? And that we all can agree that there's a lack of equality. Our question was, were there ever any wing representatives that complained about that? And our thing was, hey, we get it. We 100% get your reasons, but we did not understand, for example, we knew that the GSUs were being eliminated was a very high possibility. You told us that from the get. So we made sure to call out GSUs, because sometimes GSUs didn't always submit their stuff. So we called the GSUs and we said, hey, if we want to show the value of the GSUs, send them this year. And you saw, it was great, right? We had so many people, it was amazing. So we are SEAC, we are only 12 people, and we work for the state command chief. So what our recommendation is there's a recommendation, but we work for the state command chief, and what he wants to do is what we're going to. And that's why we said, hey, we're out of this. So chiefs, you guys have to fight this if you want this, right?
So your recommendation was to keep it where it was.
Okay. We understood where you're coming from, and it totally makes sense. But yes, we had no problem with keeping it.
So the recommendation was that they were fine doing the amount of work keeping it the same. It really wasn't a determination on, what was the right thing to do as far as the number of competitors. It was about how much work he had to do.
Well, we do think that there was gonna be a loss of diversity in the packages. We did think it was an opportunity for both wings and GSUs to get re-blued. You meet people and all the stuff, but like you're mentioning, there are other opportunities in the state that you guys are working on for that to happen. But yes, I think we all came into that meeting with you very passionate that we should absolutely keep the GSUs. It was unfair, and we really loved having the GSUs and loved having the, I mean, like, these guys, man, when they come up,
Awesome.
it is.
Yeah, which means they're gonna be strong competitors in their wings.
They should win anyway. They'll win,
But
win,
they
win.
also, but then you, I mean, you make very good points, and we don't disagree with them. Just, you know.
So how did we come to the conclusion then, though, SEAC said that? Because I don't know about the rest of the GSU chiefs in here, but I was not asked to weigh in, and I was not read in that this decision was on the table. So how did we get here?
You're right. I didn't ask the GSUs if what their opinions were. I did have conversations with the command chiefs. It wasn't just a one-time conversation. We talked about it a number of times, right? Yeah. Numbers
So
of
there's
times.
equality for GSUs in the wing, and then so we weren't asked from the wing either. Then where does that equality start? I'm confused, Chief.
Well, there's a difference between the top and then, okay, this is the thing. So yes, we did have conversations, but once it comes down and we press.
It was after the change was made, though. It wasn't, hey, this is something that I need you guys to weigh in on. No, that's my point. And so that's when we, on this end of it, it felt like we were alienated in this process, and that not only were we, but really our airmen were. So you're not coming to ask me what's best for my airmen. You're kind of cutting out their support system as you go through making these types of decisions. And as the chief has pointed out, our airmen don't have those amenities in GSUs. And yeah, you can laugh about it, but it's the truth. And sometimes their perception of the level of support from the GSU is that they don't receive what those guys get over there. And yeah, we do the best we can to build those bridges and put some truth behind that to try to help that. And you, dude, I don't know why you're making that face, because how long have you spent at GSU?
As a member of a GSU?
GSU supporting those airmen on that side of the fence.
Over 5 years as a wing command chief.
How many okay. You haven't physically sat in one of those seats over there, though, is what I'm saying.
Have I ever been a member of a GSU?
Right, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, he was. He reported to me for a bit.
And that's how I got to the decision.
He's your boss now.
So, to your point, the fact that I have never, in my 34 years, ever been a part of a GSU, does it...
Picture we need painted to go in and track 301 and see if that makes sense.
But just to understand what he's saying.
In RG. AFAM training selections. Because we use those training selections to forecast what we need later. That makes sense. We look at those, and it sends the demand signal what you need, you know. You guys talk about the sunset, or you
No,
guys?
they already, you get Tradoc said during the MOA back.
Yeah, so what Tradoc is doing, removing the MOA, is that they said they're gonna go in March and realign all forces correctly across all components, which I don't believe is gonna happen. Because that means, hey, congratulations, your last class you're teaching right now for 88 Mikey, now it's going to Kansas. I don't think that's gonna happen, and I don't see Big Army shifting all resources and all of that in March. But that's what they said the plan is, so we'll see.
Hey, I can tell you this on training selections real quick. You can ask your operations section, readiness and SEAL training, intel, et cetera, for a copy of that training selection report to validate, and you now know what your organization is being selected for as far as schools. Because he said something about Master Fitness earlier where we requested 17, 18 slots. I'll give you an example. The only thing that's going to automatically populate on training selections is our non-DMOSQ soldiers and those who have a TMD requirement. Okay? It's not going to show the UMO requirement. It's not going to show the Master Fitness requirement or any other additional skill identifier. Those have to be manually input. It's based off your info.
So if it's not organically under intel for two scare, battle staff, for all those things, it's not intuitive beyond their gift to farm it out. If you got a good dude who knows how to do it, it's not a big deal. But it's kind of hard to get down to some of the leaches when it's a little bit more challenging on paper sometimes.
So it's 16 December?
16.
Did I finish one?
Alright, so remember I asked, I said, who in the room thinks that they do the right following of the cycle? Here's the numbers to support why we're not. And this is across the state. It's not specific to a brigade. When we get to the brigade slide here in a few, you'll see where you're at as a brigade.
Yeah, so just real quick, how to read this. So the reason this is across both for FY19 is because fill rate, no-show rate, and grad rate only pertain to Romeos, not NVs, because we're not given NV quotas. We get what we got based on that first come, first serve. So our fill rate for 2 Romeos was 153%. Our no-show rate was 7. Doesn't sound bad. And our grad rate is 84%. So 84% of people were saying school are graduating. We had 2,795 quotas. We reserved 2,489. We had 306 quotas remaining, right? Look, all these cancellations. 1,274 people. So let's say 274 of those people were like, oh, he got injured, family emergency, whatever reason code you could think in HR that's legitimate. Let's just say 274 of those were. About 1,000 people were either, the reason codes we're getting are erroneously reserved. We get those all the time. Like, well, why? And they were erroneously put into HRs for the school. You know,
For your job conflict the day before the course starts.
For an
Like,
AGR
some
soldier.
jobs happen, but if 30 days out, your employer should be good. But if you're getting those on a weekly basis, it's not important. It says guard only, so it's a good scapegoat to get out of the course, right? It's not my job to check the fidelity of what's on there. It's my job to action request, okay? But cancellation on Friday for a course that reports Sunday, that's a no-show in my head. Because you just wasted a seat. You can't refill that seat in 40. You can't find an AGR person on orders to go 24 hours a lot of times, right? Imagine an in-day person getting half-cost orders and DTS cut all the way for them to go. So that's why business practice is bad.
And that's why the guard guy shows up to the schoolhouse with no orders and no DTS and all that, because you just sent in that aspect that you just gave right now. The thing that I'm really looking at that I'm very concerned about, look at 20. We already have 447 cancellations in this fiscal year already, and we're not even out of October yet. 25 days in, and we have a third of what we canceled last year already.
And of those 447, how many are we able to recapture and go? When we talk the cancellations, we talk absolute cancellations where we lost that slot.
It's all the
So
above.
some of those are lost in a substitution cancellation too. So,
Yeah. But it's still the point, because you need to know that that's wasted man hours.
Yeah,
Your
absolutely.
NCO, your battalion ops person, your brigade is in there having to swap somebody out because we did this to ourselves.
And if it's an NBC, we gotta push it all the way up to guard bureau to get them to action request too, which could be a delay, and then does it the last
This is a
one.
metric that NGB looks at anyway,
Well, they look at this on a daily basis. It's Sampa emails or calls me daily.
Even NGB, the trade-off, DA though, they look at stuff like this. We wanna go get more 68 whiskey seats. Like, well, you had 7,000 cancellations last year, and we have to explain the whole process to them. But a lot of times they don't care.
and this is updated weekly through IBIS, which is like an AFAM program, which is metrics. But so, yeah, and then like Sergeant Major Morwood said, not every cancellation is bad because some of them are lost in the substitution, which is good because we're still filling seats, which quote execution and throughput, right? That's how we keep ourselves from losing seats in the future. However, if we can create less cogs in the wheel, that's the goal. To streamline the process. Because if we don't need those 1,274 seats, why don't we just give them to states that do? Or, I mean, which RTIs wouldn't like to hear, because then they can shut down an RTI because they don't need you to teach that course anymore, right? But we got to send the correct demand signals up. So, and data can be read however you want to, red pill, blue pill, but this is just the stuff that is looked at in IBIS that NGB kind of like produces to say, hey, this is what you look like, this is where you're at on a scorecard, you might want to decrease these negative actions, if that makes sense. Yeah, we're 0% no-shows this year, 25 days in, looks good.
I have a question.
Yes, sir, Major.
So only 84% of the people that we actually send to school graduate.
Correct.
Why? I'm not. I
We're
mean,
about to get to it.
You're about to see it on the next slide.
So in ATARs, once you have a reservation, that means the Texas, we got them their seats. Now it's on the unit to get them there, and then the soldier to complete the training, correct? And there's a lot of reasons that it can happen, and we're gonna show a lot of things. The first thing you can do to fail a course is do what? Not show up to the course. That's an automatic no-go in my book if you don't show up for the training.
So if you look at this one, the orange long bar that's really big is swaps. And the blue line below it is no-shows. By brigade, it is broken down by brigade.
56 is the biggest in their defense.
And so the top is recruiting command, joint force headquarters, 72nd is third, the SIOP, troop command, the EMIB, 56, sustainment brigade is right under that big blob of color. HHBN, the CAB, engineer brigade, and then the MEM. That's how they're aligned on the slide, and you'll get these slides so you'll see where they're at, but.
Fair place for lethality. And the 56 is probably I get the least amount of issues from. I'm not doing much more.
Now when Omar was there, where's he at?
He
Omar got tired and left, and he was coming. Okay. Alright, what's the next one, cause you're gonna take a minute. Good.
Yeah.
Here's your non-completion right here, why you're 16%.
So for this non-completion, we just looked at the main things that we see a little more, it's easier to code. It's gonna be height, weight, APSE, and academic. This is the only three that we're showing out of this right here. It's not showing showed up and did not begin training, because data is only as good as it's input into the system. And so the schoolhouse isn't properly input the data, I can't give it back to you, but this is pretty good what I've got from here.
And what this does not depict are the ones that show up and sexually assault their fucking classmates, EO complaints, alcohol-related crimes, 16 felonies in California. That's what this doesn't show. This is just APFT height and weight and academic failure.
You should be able to prevent these three right here.
Yeah. You can't fix stupid, but you can fix height, weight, APFT, and just not showing up at all. What's that, man?
True statement or not a true
False. Fake news.
He's saying true statement.
I'm saying from a code aspect, that doesn't mean that there's not creative solutions outside of the book. There are solutions out there. There's a way to get them.
Yeah, but you'll talk to soldiers out there, and it might be a 2-year wait for it.
Right. So
Yeah, what we're actually slated and quota and funded to do, that statement is true. What we've been able to manipulate with Sergeant Feddersen and the RTI is not true. Because we've already negotiated with Fort Hood, to send walk-ons every class and walk people on at Fort Hood.
Well, because my boss likes to have coffee with me.
I know.
Yeah, I know.
Man, that guy has a seat, and he was telling your two-star that he didn't have a seat, the system is fucking him over.
So I'll tell you this,
I'm
we
here
are,
now.
at the state level, for sure, if we're the 9.5, because of no seat, put a note back in there, coordinate with
And I would say
36
too,
RTI.
down internally, if you got a soldier already in a reservation that doesn't need it, you should swap out that soldier that needs that seat. Because we receive enough seats for our promotion rate pretty much. But I've seen a national average, we're getting the train aheads, you guys train, but we're getting a lot of the train aheads now. What group's not moving? The legacy is staying the same. This is not a national average. So when we look at this, we think we're programming too much seats. If we're getting at the national level hundreds of train aheads, that means we're getting too many seats. They're gonna reduce us down to DA level. But they don't see that legacy thing, because they don't believe that group exists anymore.
And that's why we require coordination with the J1, because they look at the 3-year average of promotions as well, 5 year
what I've done with BLC and MLC specifically is negotiate us to walk on and we pay out of hide. So when you talk about the funding piece, we're doing that as the organization and taking it on the chin and not funding other things to get people to BLC and MLC specifically. Now, when
What's that look like as far as BLC 2, 3, 2?
Oh, no, it's like.
So this line, the very last line